Darien TV, not TV 79. Let's go ahead and get started. It's 7 o'clock, so I will call this regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen to order for Monday, September 8th, 2025. Thanks everyone for coming. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. First Selectmen's report, a couple of things this evening. First, as I noted in my newsletter on Friday, and as many of you know, RTM member Frank Kemp passed away on August 30th. It was a real loss, not just for the RTM, but for the town and everyone who prizes thoughtful and civilized discourse. He was a gentleman and just a fine human being. So rest in peace, Frank. Next is, I prepared yesterday a video about Great Island, and the purpose of that video was to really provide an overview of where we are at the moment in terms of the master plan and what's next in terms of the next phase of development for Great Island. That video is available on Darien TV, and I've sent it out to members of the RTM, Board of Selectmen, and Board of Finance, and so I would encourage anyone who is tracking all of this and wants to understand more clearly what it is we're requesting and how we're framing it, both in the context of the master plan and thinking ahead as to what might be next, to please take a look at that video. I'd specifically say anybody who's going to be involved in the appropriation process to definitely look at the video before you come with any questions, because I think it answers a lot of questions that have been raised. So definitely take a look. School is back in session. I would just urge everyone to recognize that. There are lots of kids and lots of buses and lots of parents trying to get their young ones to all of our schools now, and now that it's back in session, please take extra care on our roadways and pay close attention to that so everybody stays safe. I had a meeting with Jen Charneski last Thursday, September 4th, with the BSC Group. That's the consultants that we've hired to help us with the next iteration of our sidewalk strategy for the town. So we're going to be spending some time with that consultant to really finalize the mission of what I hope will be another pedestrian infrastructure advisory committee, as well as sort of rules of the road in terms of criteria for evaluating sidewalks in town. So more to come on that. Once we finish that process, we will talk about how to form another committee to take a look at that and have citizen involvement in advancing the strategy that we have for sidewalks and walkability in town generally. Also that day, hopefully a number of you attended the Plan of Conservation and Development workshop that was held down in the Mather Center. I thought that was a good, productive session. Darien TV covered it, so it's available on Darien TV if you'd like to take a look at it. It's just a reminder that that's a pretty important document in terms of setting the stage for how we as a town want to pay attention to some important things, such as how the town is developed, what about housing, how we care for our coastal and natural resources. All of that is embodied in the Plan of Conservation and Development. As you likely know, that's something that we're required to update every 10 years by the state of Connecticut, and our next plan is due in 2026. So that process continues and needs to be wrapped up by next spring. So more to come on that. This Saturday, a number of us had a chance to participate in the Darien Police Department open house over at the police department. Absolutely fantastic. They did a wonderful job organizing that, from canine demonstrations to their armored vehicle to really anything you'd want to know about the police department. So a real congratulations to everybody involved. As you know, this year marks the 100th anniversary of the founding of the Darien Police Department as a breakaway from Stanford. So definitely kudos to everybody involved, and congratulations to our men and women, both in uniform and in civilian roles with the police department. We value their service to our community greatly. And finally, last night, I had a chance to participate as a, I guess, superhero. Anyway, it was a volunteer thing, but it was a recognition by the United Jewish Federation of Stamford, New Canaan, and Darien. It was an event held in Stamford last night, and there were quite a number of people that they recognized, from the mayor of Stamford to police chief in Stanford to a number of rabbis and others across this community who've stepped up to make their voice heard with regard to matters affecting that community. There was a terrific evening, great musical performance, and really just outstanding. I'd like to just thank everybody for organizing that and also for inviting me. It was a terrific evening. So that's all I had for my update. Does anyone have any questions? Okay. All right. Next up is board liaison reports. Mike.
The Blight Review Board will be meeting this Wednesday. So we did not meet in August, so I'll have something to report at our next meeting.
Okay, terrific. Thank you.
Sure. Mental Health Task Force meets October 28th. So I'll have an update then, but I just want to reach out. It is September, which is Suicide Awareness Month. So it's a good time to sort of restructure your lives and look at your families and to have an understanding of where you go for help if anyone in your family is struggling with suicide. Wave Strong reached out. They are having their luncheon, which is on September 18th. The theme for this year's luncheon is Katie Saves. It's the parents of Katie Myers, who was a goalkeeper at Stanford University, who committed suicide. And they are working hardly and diligently to do some legislative passes to get involved in mental health issues that are combating a lot of elite athletes. So I think it's something that's really pertaining to our youth in Darien, and if anyone wants to go, I will be there. Would love to see you. It is a really amazing organization that's done some really great work in town, so keep that in mind. And the other thing, Suicide Prevention Month, again, just a reminder that 988 is a suicide hotline. If anybody is struggling immediately, you can call that and right away get immediate help. And I found a little quote today that I thought was very pertaining for anyone who is struggling through transitions or seeing anything in their lives as they're moving forward, from C.S. Lewis. It is, "There are far, far better things ahead than anything we leave behind." So for those who are struggling or those who are going through transitions, just know that this is not the end of your tunnel, that there's light and you will find your way.
Thank you. Is there a walk planned? We had one of those last year.
Those happen in the spring.
That's in the spring?
Yep,
okay.
That's in the spring.
Thank you. All right, terrific. Monica.
Well, we're touching Great Island today, so I don't have that. But I wanted to say that I had the chance to work with Frank Kemp on the plastic bag ban a number of years ago, and he was just an unbelievable person, and he did so much for this town, whether it was through St. Luke's or through the water groups that he was participating in, helping kids, or through different government roles that he had. And, you know, we're always talking about volunteers, and if you volunteer, I hope you have the opportunity to work with somebody like Frank, because he was terrific and will be really missed. So,
thank you.
That's it.
Sarah.
I have two quick updates. The Thriving Youth Darien, the first meeting of this year will be on September 18th at 9:30 at the Darien Library, and then our next Hindley Homes and Royal Building Committee meeting will be September 15th at 6 p.m. on Zoom. But I'd also like to echo your thoughts about Frank. I think the town has lost an incredibly valuable asset, and I met him about 7 years ago, so not as long as the plastic bag ban. I can't begin to tell you the number of people that I've talked to in the past week that have in some way gotten to know Frank, people from all walks of life, and I think our town has really lost a gem, so I think about his family, so thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay. Public comments. Do we have any public comments in person? I'm sorry.
No, sorry, ignore me, ignore. All good.
Susan, please.
Thank you. My name is Susan Marks. I live at 39 Fairfield Avenue. I am on the RTM, but I'm speaking as Susan Marks, a 36-year resident of Darien. John, I want to thank you for the video. I actually have watched it twice, listened to it twice. So I want to thank you very much for doing that. I did support 100% the purchase of Great Island. I also 100% supported the consultant. But now I'm asking if there's any way we can just take a few more deep breaths. The presentation again was great. I do have questions, but I wish we could have an in-person discussion, because I'd love to hear, I've talked to a lot of people, and they also have questions, and I'm sure you'll answer each one of them, but it would be great if we, as RTM members, could hear the questions and the answers. I know time is of the essence, so I know you're going to vote on the allocation tonight, and I'm just wondering if it makes sense to, you could certainly give the presentation in September, but if we have to then vote that same night, we're listening to answers. So just for your consideration, if there's any way to have a presentation with questions and answers in person, and then delay the allocation until October. There may be a really good reason not to do that, but I just thought I would put it out there. You know, we've owned Short Lane and Pear Tree for years and years and years, and we've taken things very slowly. Some could argue maybe too slowly for Short Lane. So I'm not saying we should repeat over 10 years waiting to do anything on Great Island. I know the committee has worked extremely hard, and I totally appreciate that, but I just think it's time to just let people ask their questions, think about it thoroughly. You were great and laid out all the other possible projects. You mentioned the sidewalk consultant. I'm sure there's going to be money that will be allocated to the sidewalks. I know we've had a report that's coming to us about all the the compliance things that we may have to correct. So I'm just concerned that we're asking for a lot of money for the consultants. I know they're great, but then you'll be asking for a lot more money. So my plea is to hopefully let's do Short Lane, let's do Pear Tree, and let's just take a little bit more of a pause on Great Island. I do have to run to rules, but I am going to try and come back afterwards. So it's not that I don't want to listen to your conversation, but I have another meeting at 7:30. Thank you.
Does anyone else have any in-person public comments? Jennifer, do we have any email submission public comments?
We do. We received two. First one is from Alexis Sweet, 20 Beverly Place, and I'll read them as they were submitted. First, thank you to Ms. Charneski for reading these comments into the public record this evening. My remarks tonight are regarding the management of the 23A construction work on Great Island. First, I remain astounded that the contractors were initially told by the town that they could begin work at 6:30 a.m. While I'm relieved that this has since been corrected to 7 a.m., the fact that 6:30 a.m. was ever considered acceptable is as shocking as it is disrespectful to the many residents who live in the area. Second, I would appreciate clarification tonight on the town's plans for ongoing oversight of the 23A project. Unfortunately, there is already noticeable damage along the tidal inlet bank, including downed trees and broken limbs. Our community needs assurance that the town will actively monitor the project and take steps to prevent further environmental harm. The town has a clear duty to protect its coastal resources, of which the tidal inlet bank is but one. To date, we have invested something like $92 million on Great Island, but genuine environmental stewardship is priceless. Thank you for your time and for committing to address these important issues. And then we also received written comment from Sophie Murphy, 68 Salem Straits. I am very concerned about the way our town leaders and departments, including DPW, are approaching major capital projects in very sensitive ecological areas, and also what I perceive to be a general disregard and even dismissal of more environmentally friendly and sustainable approaches that can and should be taken in 2025. From my perspective, the town of Darien seems to be stuck in a mindset that is rooted in the past and not suited to current conditions in terms of both climate and our responsibility as a coastal community to protect the waters of Long Island Sound. As an example, for the Weed Beach Meadow and Trail project, the use of asphalt paving, a petroleum-based impermeable product which absorbs solar energy, creating a heat effect, and also off-gassing volatile organic compounds into the air, is concerning when there are ADA permeable paving options available. I can't imagine how residents will want to walk on this trail on a hot summer day when the temperature of the asphalt can reach well over 140 degrees Fahrenheit. Our town owes its current and future taxpayers a commitment to make better choices and to come up to speed on sustainable best practices, as we are lagging woefully behind our peer towns.
Okay, that's it.
Those were the two that we received.
All right, thank you for those comments. New business, item number 1, discuss and take action on a request for an appropriation and bond authorization for improvements to the Short Lane parcel at Weed Beach. I'll just kick off that discussion with a quick overview of kind of where we've been and where we are. So this project really was conceived of, I mean, at least I think more than 2 years ago, maybe even 3 years ago, following the acquisition of the Shore Lane property, which is that piece of Great Island, or Weed Beach that's between Norotan Bay and the existing Weed Beach. We've owned that piece of property since 2014 and really took no action to develop it. As a town, we couldn't get our minds around what was next for that property, and it lay fallow for all those years. And it's been a controversial piece of property for a number of reasons. The first and foremost one was the cutting down of trees in December, I guess, of 2022, maybe. That was probably done in error, but with good intentions, because the thought was that they were going to have to clear some of those trees to do development work on that section of property, and thought they could save money. And they ended up taking some trees down that probably shouldn't have been taken down. That has been an enduring controversy since then. So following all that, we came up with the Weed Beach plan that's actually before us tonight, unmodified since then. It started as a much bigger project, but subsequently was constrained to a project that has the following elements. The first element, if I just kind of go from the beach back, starting at the beach, is to get the beach to be basically the same across. So it's going to take Weed Beach as it is right now and extend it straight across, so that'll be look like the rest of this beach. Right behind that, there are some wetlands and quite a few invasives that sort of block that area. It's also full of trash and a few other things. The idea there is to take those pockets of wetlands there and move them back up to the pump station, which is further north in that property, and to take that area and combine it with the existing grass and make that a lawn area, and to encircle that with an ADA compliant walking path. Further down on the beach towards Norotan Bay, that's where we would rebuild the kayaks and the stand that's back there, that's where that is currently, and there would be a pathway wide enough for a little kayak trailer and a vehicle to get back there and move boats back and forth in front of Weed Beach. And then in the lawn itself, like I said, there would be this walking path. To the west of that, the parking lot that's really just kind of a mud pit right now would be redone, so that's a gravel parking lot area. And then north of that, basically half of the piece of property is going to be left natural. Those are going to be wetlands, as well as an area where we would remove invasives. I'd point out that the current plan is to remove those invasives by hand. We're not going to be using any herbicides or any chemicals to do that. That's going to be something that's done by hand. So that basic outline of the plan that I described has been what's in place for a long time. We had a bid on that, you'll recall, that the Board of Selectmen looked at. It ended up being about $2 million. We had, in our budget, had an amount of $1 million, and it was shocking to get that number. And as a result, we decided to defer approving that appropriation. We asked the Parks and Rec Commission to reconsider the design to see if we could make it less expensive. They came back with several alternatives, all of which were unattractive in terms of developing the property the way it really needed to be. And as a result, recommended back to us that we stick with that plan. So we then decided to put it out for bid again. We did not get any bids this second time around. We reconfigured the bid in terms of splitting up parts of it and delaying some of the timing. We got 5 bids. The lowest bid we disqualified for a number of reasons, but the next bid up we did qualify. And interestingly, it's just a little over $2 million, so not much different than the bid that we turned down now more than a year ago. So before us is an appropriation request for doing Weed Beach the way we had thought we were going to do it in May of 2024. The amount is about the same. The general plan is the same. That said, and this board has had a complete presentation of the proposed improvements by both Parks and Rec, as well as Dan Biggs from Weston and Sampson when we were looking at this appropriation earlier. I met last week with Lori Bora, Jen Fava, and Jen Charneski. What we're going to do with Dan Biggs is to record a Zoom later this week, actually on Thursday, that's going to essentially redo this presentation because the Board of Finance and the RTM have not had a chance to have a detailed presentation about this. We're going to record that and hopefully lay it out in enough detail that answers their questions. Anyway, that's where we stand with the Weed Beach project and the appropriation that is before you tonight. We have Lori Bora and Jen Fava here to answer any questions that you guys may have about that project. And why don't I stop talking for a minute and see what questions you do have. Unless maybe Lori or Jen, you guys want to say anything, maybe we'll just answer questions to start. Let's go with questions. Sarah.
I think what would be helpful for the public is for you to talk a little bit more about the ADA compliance issue. I think it's come up more a few times. I know we've had conversations not in public, and I think it would be helpful for the public. This is touched upon several times, and I think one of the reasons why the path was put back in.
Yep.
So if you could talk more about that,
I'd be happy to. So one of the controversial things about Weed Beach is this pathway. So the pathway, there's the little roadway that's going to go from the parking area to the kayaks. We have to have that because you've got to have access to trailers and to bring boats over there. So that's not controversial. What is controversial is that pathway that would extend, it would be a loop around the lawn area for Weed Beach. And it's basically a walking path, kind of like the walking path we have up at Highland Farm. Same idea, same concept. Some people have asked, well, geez, do we really need to have that walking path? I think it's nice to have, but the issue around this is the compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act. To be clear, the ADA does not require us to put in this path. The reason that we're recommending that we do put in this path is that the town has a shortage of paved walking areas for folks with mobility challenges or who require accommodations through the Americans with Disabilities Act. In fact, if you go to Weed Beach, there's a sidewalk in front of the beach, there's a parking lot, and that's it. There are no walking paths for anybody to go down to Weed Beach. You just have to walk in the parking lot or on the sidewalks. If you think about ADA issues, when a complaint is filed under the Americans with Disabilities Act, when they look at the accused and try to ascertain whether that, say, municipality in our case, is doing enough in compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act, they look at the entire town. And what they're going to find with Darien is that, well, we need to work on that, and we are going to work on that. But if we were to have this pathway in Weed Beach, it would add to our profile of walkable spaces in the town of Darien. It's actually quite important that we figure out ways to contribute to that profile. Now, maybe Weed Beach is not the right place to do that. I would argue that it is because we don't have walkable paths on Weed Beach. This would solve that problem in a very non-intrusive way. I'd further point out that in terms of paved surface, we're going to take out that short lane driveway or little street that's there. And when you take that out and you put in this pathway, net there will actually be a small decrease in paved surface on the short lane property. So I think it's an investment worth making. I'll let the Parks and Rec team comment further on that. But in short, we do think it helps our ADA profile in town to add a walkable space on Weed Beach in this property.
So one of the things we talked about when we came in February was the desire to look at some kind of alternative surface and not having asphalt. My concern is that I would dearly love to see some kind of alternate surface other than asphalt. However, my concern is that one of the surfaces that was discussed, and I can't remember the name of the surface, one of the things that clogs the surface is sand, of which there is an infinite amount of right at Weed Beach. Is there any other kind of surface that could be used for that other than this? Is there something that might be a suitable alternative?
So my understanding is no. There's basically three choices. We can have poured concrete, we can have asphalt, or we can have this permeable surface. There's an example of that up at Highland Farms.
Right.
And the way it's built, is you actually cut out a fair bit of dirt and you lay a bed of rocks and gravel. It's about like this, and then on top of that is this surface. And the reason you do that is that because the surface is permeable, you can pour water into it and it would drain down into this sort of rock substructure that's beneath the sidewalk itself. So the surface does work at Island Farms. If you go there and see a rainstorm and there's a lot of rain, it actually does drain into the sidewalk. It's kind of cool to see that. But they are very expensive to build. They're expensive to maintain, and to your point about having them in a sandy environment like that, the sand does get into the porous surface and will clog it. And there's not an easy way to clean that in terms of vacuuming it or trying to keep it where it performs as advertised. The reason that we're going to go with the planned surface is, quite frankly, it's the best in terms of maintenance, durability, walkability. Unfortunately, it just works extremely well in that particular application in that location. So that's why they're planning asphalt.
Isn't there a boardwalk surface you could?
Yeah, hold on, let me finish that here.
Have we calculated into our assessment of walkable space, what we think we're going to be doing at Great Island? Have we factored in that in terms of the equation when you look at what we have?
I think that's a good question. There obviously are pathways on Great Island right now. The proposed investment that we're making, that we're going to be discussing tonight, it really introduces just a bit more. There's a lot of walkways that are envisioned for Great Island, but given the desire to kind of take things slowly, it could be years before they materialize.
I don't really have any other questions. I did want to say that this is impressive. I think it was my first meeting in 2021 on this board, and the presentation that we got for something at Weed Beach was a page long and had figures that were pre-COVID. So this is obviously the product of a great deal of work, and it is a tremendously well thought out product. So congratulations to the Parks and Rec Commission and the leadership of the department here in-house. That said, I don't know procedurally how we approach this, but I would be in favor of the two deduction alternates 1 and 2 related to these walking paths. So once everyone else, speaks, either way, I'm going to vote for this ultimately, but I'd like to have an opportunity to vote the plan with the deduct alternates number 1 and number 2 considered.
Okay. Why do you want to take out a walking path for people that are mobility challenged that might want to walk at Weed Beach? Why do you not want to have that?
Because I feel that there are ample opportunities to walk safely in this town. I think there are some additional questions concerning the surfaces and the reliability of these paths. And to put it shortly, succinctly, I've done the reading and I'm just not sold on this part of the plan. I wasn't really leaning towards it when we spoke about it several months ago, and I haven't seen really anything to move the needle. So that's just my view of it, or that aspect. The rest of it, I'm perfectly fine with it.
Okay. Why don't we hear from Lori and Jen? You guys care to come up?
Lorene Bohr, Chair Parks and Rec. Mike, one thing I would ask you to think about when you're coming, you say there are other places people can go to walk. When you think about the spirit of the American with Disabilities Act and inclusion, part of what's important is that people don't have to go somewhere else. So if they want to go to the beach for the day with their family, we're not making that available to them. You see, and for instance, when we redid the 3 playgrounds in town, somebody said, well, McGuan's accessible, so, kids can go there. But if all their friends are going to Cherry Lawn or Baker, well, now you have a child who can't participate. And it's kind of the same thing. I think the ultimate goal is to make sure that all of our public facilities have the walkways and the paths. So I would just ask you to maybe think about it in that context, that it's not about saying, oh, you can go there. It's no, I want to go, I think back, when my father in his later years, couldn't go on the sand. But if you had an elderly parent who you could say, gee, we can go have a picnic at the beach, and we know there's a great surface for you, that's what we're looking for. So that's a little bit of how I think about it. Is it not, you can go here and not there. So just would ask you to consider that.
Okay.
What was the other piece?
What was the second deduct on there?
It's a sidewalk, which we think is a safety consideration to get people walking along the edge and not through the parking lot as
missing
much,
where those
especially because there's so many
deducts are.
children in the park.
So Lori, one of the deducts includes picnic tables, picnic pads, grills. So, and for the record, I'm for the path,
Yep.
but I'm just wondering, in that 58,000, what is actually the path and what comprises, what dollar amount is for the other items? Do you know off the top of your head?
Do you have it, Jen? I don't think the tables are too much. It's because if we didn't complete the loop, then we wouldn't have we were going to have the pads, which we need to have for the stable surface.
Yeah, I don't think I have an exact number. It's minimal, but we could keep the loop and take out those 2 pads and do those as a change order and do a deduction.
No, I'm just asking if we keep those items out.
Right.
At this point, it includes picnic tables, grills, that kind of thing. So did you intend to do that? That's what this, it says, concrete walkway, 2 concrete picnic pads, 2 picnic tables, and 2 grills.
Right, so that loop, that section that comes along with 2 of them, the 3 at the bottom would remain. That's in the plan.
Okay.
It's that loop that goes on the outer edge to get you back towards the parking lot. There's 2 picnic pads. So it's the grills, the tables there, and the...
That are on that walkway.
The pads and the walkway.
Okay.
All of that is that 58,000.
Okay.
So you would deduct the square amount of asphalt for the pad, and then the table and the...
Okay,
and the
got
picnic
it.
table.
Okay, this is a little unclear.
Another
Okay.
thing I'd like to point out is when we think about adding picnic tables, there's a ratio that we need to have in terms of non-accessible picnic tables versus accessible. And if we remove the number of accessible picnic tables, we will proportionally have to reduce the number of overall picnic tables that we would be able to put in the area. So we have to keep that in mind as well.
And my other question was, you have the same contractor on both projects, and you have the same construction manager, and when they bid, I'm sure they didn't bid assuming they would get both projects. So is there any cost savings now that we have identified the same construction manager for both projects and the same construction company?
I don't know from the construction company. In speaking with Dan with Weston and Sampson, we may be able to see some savings because we would have the same person, so just travel, they could do things at the same time, so he does expect that we would probably see some reduction, some savings on their costs.
Even on materials, though, I mean, it's not like you're looking at Highland and Weed, you're looking at 2 beaches, right? So, and you're working on them at the same time, correct? These
Yeah,
projects-
except the work is very different. One of them is repaving a lot and a boat ramp and dredging, and the other one is, sidewalks
two
and beach, so
different.
they're
Okay.
pretty different. We'll check on that, but that was our quick assessment, please.
When would we be seating the building committee for this?
Good question. We will take that up at our next meeting, but we're going to need to think about a building committee, assuming the appropriation passes for not just this, but these projects, but also the Great Island.
And Pear Tree?
Yes, and the question is, as they said, it's the same company that's doing both Pear Tree
Great.
Point and Weed Beach. And so one question would be, should we have the same building committee for both projects? Which I could do, just given, well, there's a shortage of people who've got the skill sets to do this.
Well,
so.
we did 3 schools with 1 building committee. So.
There you go. Other questions for Lori and Jen?
I have one more. So, and the construction, you're thinking the schedule, the phasing is same start, same finish on both of these projects?
Yeah, so they would both begin around November 3rd. We're expecting final completion at Pear Tree, it was May 1st. We do have some restrictions there with the water, with the deep permit for that, and I believe it's a May 22nd completion for Weed.
Do you anticipate the beaches being open on the weekends, sort of like what we're doing on Great Island?
At Weed, I don't think we're really going to see any
disruption.
any real impact or disruption, because you'll have the whole other portion of the beach, so I don't see anything there.
That part's barely used anyway.
Right, so the main thing will be at Pear. It's all going to depend on the timing, and I think we'll know more about that once we get to the phasing and get to have pre-construction meetings with the company.
Pear Tree is definitely the trickier of the two, and we're going to have to work closely with the boat club, with who we've been in touch with. One of the reasons, we looked for the November start was to allow everybody to get their boats removed from the water and out through the parking lot.
My last comment is on the construction manager. On one, you have the agreed sum includes special inspections and expenses, and on Pear Tree, it doesn't include that. So I'm sure one of those needs to be adjusted.
I think it's in both of them, but we'll double check with them.
Yeah.
It should include.
One doesn't include.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll follow up with that.
Weed doesn't.
Okay. So we have an appropriation here of $2,141,500, which is soup to nuts for this property. It does include the two deduct alternates that Mike mentioned. So if there's a sense of the board that those alternates might not pass, that we want to take them out of this appropriation. Mike, looks like you'll vote against both. If we have a separate vote on those, Sarah, would you vote against those?
I don't necessarily know that I would vote against them. I think one of the nice things that we're doing right now in Henley, and we have this construction manager budget and the contingency budget, and if we don't spend that, we're able to do some of these ad alternates. That could be a part of this project also. I know that if you don't spend the contingency, that money has already been appropriated, and you could use that and repurpose that later. But that is that is not my decision.
Okay. Marcy, what's your position? Do you want to do this or not?
Well, I'm just looking at all three of these projects in a whole picture, and we're asking the town to spend a lot of money on parks.
Yeah, we are.
I support every single one of these projects as written, as presented to the board. Now it's my job to look and prioritize which one of those projects do we need to do, and how are we going to spend our taxpayers' dollars. I look at this as our goal was when we got up and were put into office, is public safety is always a priority to me. Weed Beach feels like a want. It doesn't feel like a need to this town. Great Island and Pear Tree are health and safety concerns for me. Pear Tree needs to be raised. There's a water issue. We're losing the beach daily. That needs to be done. It is an urgent project. Great Island, that needs to be done because I'm terrified of people walking down the road with no sidewalks from the beach, from the parking lot, and someone getting hurt. So for me, those are my priorities. This Weed Beach project, although lovely, I don't think it's on the top list of things for me to get done right now.
Yeah, the only thing I would say about that is we've kept that property now for a decade.
Get it?
And it's not usable.
Yep.
We're not getting any tax revenue from that. And I think if we, as a board, say, well, we're just not going to spend the money, we're not going to improve it, we should just sell it to a developer and let them develop it, right? Because in a sense, it's not, your point's a good one about not spending taxpayer money, and I totally get that, but it's also a little unfair to have that taxpayer money tied up and not generating tax revenue when no one can actually use the property. So I'm torn between kind of both those things. Both sitting on it and doing nothing is kind of unfair in a way, and then asking people to spend money on, well, that's kind of unfair, but the benefit of that is we get to a usable property, and then once it's usable, it blends into the rest of Weed Beach, and it just becomes Weed Beach. A number of people have pointed out, as Lori did during the Parks and Rec tour on Sunday, that we do have a lot of multifamily housing coming online in town, and one characteristic of all those places is they don't have yards. And they're going to be increasingly looking for places to go and enjoy our coastal community. And the beaches, I think Weed Beach is the #1 destination in town, the top preferred property in town for people to go to, consistently number one in the surveys. And this is an opportunity to extend that property and fix it up a bit for not $20 million, but $2 million. Yep. So
we do have crumbling infrastructure there as well, which is going to become an increasing safety issue.
Yeah, the parking lot is looks pretty bad.
The wall is crumbling and is going to need to be dealt with, so it's getting pretty bad down there. The invasives are just taking over.
Is the wall a part of this project?
We're moving it,
It
yes.
gets
It's taken
removed
out.
Okay.
when the beach gets expanded.
Okay.
Sarah?
I have to say, I agree with Marcy, and I think it's hard because it's a lot of money tonight that we're asking for, right? I mean, it is what, close to $15 million. It's a lot of money that we're asking the town to invest tonight. So I think it is smart to be thoughtful about it. I think it might be a little unfair to say to sell it to a developer. It's wetlands, and I don't know that they would be able to do much. I don't know how much tax revenue is going to come out of that piece of property. But we have had it for a very long time.
More than zero.
Huh? We have had it for a very long time. And my issue tonight walking in was the pathway, because that's what we said in the spring, we don't need a pathway. So I'm torn about the pathway. I understand the desire for it, I do, and on the surface, it's tough. I would rather have the permeable. You can't in a sandy environment, so that to me is my biggest issue. If this was a permeable surface like at Highland, it would be a no-brainer for me. That's the piece that I think we said in the spring, we're not going to do that. So that's the hard thing for me.
The other question I have is, can our town manage all of these projects going on in a single 3-year scope of time? Do we have, is, DPW able to take this on? Or is the Park and Rec Commission able to take this on? Are we as a Board of Selectmen able to take this on? Do we have enough people to fill this building committee to take this on? These are just my questions, and I don't have an opinion about it. I just think it's worthy of having these conversations at the table to make sure that we've
It's a good
thought about all of
question.
them.
It's a sequencing matter. Weed Beach and Pear Tree Point are unique in the sense that we want the work to start very quickly when voting season finishes, and that's kind of November, certainly for Pear Tree Point, and that both those things would be finished by May. So both Pear Tree Point and Weed Beach would be done by May.
And we're talking this calendar year.
Yeah, start in November, done in May.
When
So
is the permit expiring?
the permit doesn't expire until 27.
Oh, I thought it was 26.
There's a bunch of different permits, so.
No, I
Talking
mean
about the
Pear
dredging.
Tree.
Well, they're talking about the
Pear Tree
dredging.
is October of
20.
27, but one of them we need to begin by December of 26 and complete.
Got it, okay.
By 27.
Yeah. So that work would be done by, ideally kind of one building committee. We're talking about a Great Island building committee, but as I said in my presentation, one of the features about the appropriation we're requesting is that they're going to have to work for a year to develop just plans. So there's actually not going to be any money spent or any activity with regard to construction at all until really the first quarter of 2027, long after these projects are finished. So,
Okay.
so as a sequencing matter, it's not going to be as difficult as trying to do all 3 construction projects at once. Monica.
You know what, we've been talking about this. My calculation, we're picking up like half acre of beach, right?
Yeah, and
About
the
that?
project area is 5 acres that will become available to the public.
I support the project and I support the path. I understand really what Lori is saying, and that is that when you go to Pear Tree, you want to be able to walk. And when you go to Weed Beach, this pathway will be accessible for people that won't have to walk through the parking lot. So, and I understand the building committee, and I commend this young lady for all of your work on the HHR, and I think one building committee for both, because it is one construction manager and one contractor, makes a lot of sense.
Yep, we definitely do that.
Good design.
Yep.
I support that.
Well, it was lucky that it's the same Yield Industries, is that
It
the...
just
It just
because
worked out that
the other
their
one
bids
didn't
were
pass
great, so that's terrific, and they're highly recommended. You guys check the references on some of their other projects, which is great.
But we haven't used them before in town, right?
Correct.
Right,
But they
okay.
came highly recommended.
Right.
So is it the sense of the board to not include these deduct alternates? Because I would vote for the 2 deductions, but if no one else really is thinking that way, then we don't have to have a formal vote. I'll end up voting, I'm not going to vote no for the entire project at Weed Beach because I'm in favor of deducting the path, but I just
Well,
want
a quick poll, is you're supportive, you want the 2 deductions out, so no pathways. Sarah, you want the pathways out?
I struggle. I'd like to keep the deducts on the possible, spend if the contingency is not spent. I mean,
Well, the problem is that they kind of need to start that and build that. They
I
can't wait
understand.
till the end of the project to do it.
I do,
So,
I can appreciate
I mean,
that.
if it were purely something incremental, like you could add in a school project, I'd be okay with that,
I
but
understand.
that's hard to do in this case.
And it's 58 then?
Well, it's 58 for the pathway, and it's 17 for the separate walkway and the parking.
It's fine. For a $2 million project.
Leave them in? Okay. All right, so Marcy, where are you?
Yeah, no, I support it. It's painful, but, I mean, it's a spend, but, yeah.
Okay, could I get a motion to approve, unless absent further discussion? Could I please get a motion to recommend approval to the Board of Finance for a resolution appropriating $2,141,500 for costs of improvements at the former Short Lane parcel at Weed Beach Park and authorizing the issuance of bonds and notes in the amount of $2,141,500 to meet said appropriation? Somebody's got to move it.
Sorry.
Monica moves.
But John, that number in the construction manager, that is off. So I don't know if this specific amount.
Where is it off?
It's
That
off.
was something to bring up a lot earlier than that.
Yeah, I saw it.
Where?
I saw it in the file.
Oh, yeah. This is saying 2135.
That's the bonding cost that's not included in this estimate
This.
here.
So it's off by 14,000.
Yeah.
They did not include these two numbers here. It should be this, not this.
Where are you?
And then the construction manager, page 9, or page 4, sorry.
Well, I see here the agreement fee of $195,000. And then that number, $195,000, is included in this number, which gets to the 2135.
Okay, so it's there, okay.
Okay,
Okay, so that just has to change that one page. Okay.
okay. Yeah, that's a typo on Dan's, okay, all right. But that does not change the appropriated amount.
Okay, perfect. I'll
Okay.
move.
Okay, you'll move that? Second? Marcy seconds, all in favor? Okay, unanimous, thank you. All right. Moving right along, second new business item, discuss and take action on a request for an appropriation and bond authorization for the Pear Tree Beach Park Improvements Project of $9,010,200. So more briefly, this project has been in play, I think, for about 7 years. It's something we've thought about. It came about through concerns about erosion of Pear Tree Point Beach. That's a beach that will flood in a heavy rain. It floods when there is a particular moon phase, and it can be a perfectly clear day, and because of that, the parking lot will flood. We've seen erosion of that beach. If you listen to Craig Flaherty, who's studied this quite extensively, his concerns are actually fairly alarming, and he is very much of the mind, as many are, that we need to make an investment now to stop that erosion, to preserve that asset. This project has 3 components. One component is to raise the parking lot by, I think it's about 1.5 feet, maybe 2 feet.
It's really leveling it though. People are concerned they're going to have to drive up a big.
No, it's going to be leveled, so
Yeah.
and it'll be fine. But to raise that parking lot, there's also some other beach work that would be done as part of that. The second piece is to fix the boat ramp, which is at the north end of the parking lot. And the third piece is to dredge part of the area around the Darien Boat Club, starting at the boat ramp and up to about 10 o'clock on a clock around that. That area was last dredged in 2003, so it's been a long time since it's been dredged. But those are the 3 components. Yield Industries, again, is the one who got the low bid on that project, and it's described in more detail in the memorandum that's included with your materials. But again, something we've talked about for quite a while and includes those 3 components. Questions?
No.
No? Lori or, yeah, there's a sense that. Lori, Jennifer, you guys have anything to add or comment about the Pear Tree Point investment?
I think we're just if you have questions.
Question specifically, yeah, I mean, we've all seen I have a picture of somebody kayaking through the parking lot on a really nice sunny day, so Craig has done those scientific presentations that the number of times that the property will become unusable due to flooding events will continue to increase, is his professional opinion.
I have a question. So where exactly is the sidewalk? And why is it a deduct? Why isn't it just embedded in the project?
This is,
Yeah,
the West Beach.
This is the West Beach side.
Yeah.
So it was put in, because I guess at one point, there was some question whether or not the sidewalk should go around the entire area.
Right.
On both beaches. So we did as a deduct. As you see, it's less than $10,000 for the difference between doing the sidewalk with the curb or just doing the curb. So, again, it comes back to a safety and accessibility issue, because again, we don't want people really walking in the parking lot behind cars. You do have the kayak racks down in one area, and the building in the other, so we want to make sure that people can still, again, access towards the bathhouses there.
Okay. And then my other question is, I know we spoke in the past about the boat club participating in some way in this because of the dredging. Have they been contacted, and is that a discussion that's going on now?
I have not been in contact. I don't know if
Yeah,
there's
not in
been
terms of
anything
financial
about
contribution,
financing.
No? Okay.
Okay. I think this is a less controversial project. There's broad agreement that we need to do this. We've had lots of tours. I think it's been videotaped, and we've all seen it. I don't have any questions about this. I think the bid is of good quality. We had, I think, as a placeholder, $7 million and a range of 7 to 10, so it's certainly falling within the range of what we expected for this. Certainly expensive, but again, in the spirit of preserving an important town asset, I think this makes sense to do this. Could I get a motion for a resolution appropriating $9,010,200 for costs associated with the Pear Tree Beach Park improvements and authorizing the issuance of bonds and notes in the amount of $9,010,200 to meet said appropriation, and recommending same to the Board of Finance? Sarah moves. Mike seconds. All in favor? Okay. Parks and Rec team, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Next item up is discuss format for Board of Selectmen meetings. I only bring this up because we this year have had a format where one of our meetings is in person and one is by Zoom. Over the summer, we had all Zoom meetings. I have spoken with the superintendent, and one of the things they're going to try to do is go back to in-person meetings with the Board of Education, and at least get away from hybrid meetings, which I think they have shown to be difficult to manage. I frankly am kind of agnostic on this. I didn't mind the summer schedule that we had. I think it gave everybody a lot of flexibility to be around or not, and still enable us to meet our meeting schedule. Monica and I talked about it earlier today, and having a meeting a month where you don't actually have to be here and you can be either at home or at the office if need be, I think makes it easier, certainly for folks who work full-time. And so I hear where the superintendent's going with it. I mean, I like in-person meetings, but I live here, like in town hall, so I'm here all day anyway. But that doesn't work well, I think, for people who work, having been in that position myself once before. Comments on our meeting cadence and format?
Selfishly, obviously working in Manhattan, it has a certain appeal to have it hybrid, with the understanding that if there are some things of considerable importance that we deem it's necessary to meet in person, we could always flex back to that. And having been on the Board of Ed and now this board, I can see where that's especially fruitful for them, and it may not be as necessary for us when you consider our size and the particularized content of the things that we discuss, and how that's presented to this. Almost every one of their meetings is like our quarterly meeting in terms of having massive amount of reporting from various departments. So I think we're in good shape this way.
God bless the people who serve on that board.
No kidding.
Other comments?
No, I support it as well. I think doing one meeting a month via Zoom, I think not only is beneficial to the board, but I think also there are citizens who like to participate in from home that would want to be part of public comment that may not be able to get here. So I think it's a benefit for us as well as but along with what Mike said, let's make sure that if there is a particularly interesting topic that warrants massive board discussion, we should
Like the stuff we're talking about.
Like the stuff we're talking about. This is
I agree.
best done in person to
I think that's an interesting point, to try to curate our agendas each month so that the stuff that's more administrative gets covered by Zoom, and in person if we need to have a live debate. That's great. Sarah?
The only thing I'd like to add is that I don't know, and this is a question for you and for the lovely Linda and Karen, where are we on interviews? How, are we behind? What do we need to do? Do we need to add it like maybe once a month, a night for interviews? Because I know it's hard when we go into exec session and then have 3 interviews.
We've caught up a ton. We've got some appointments for Architectural Review Board tonight that where they're reappointments, everybody's in agreement, and they didn't think they needed to be re-interviewed, so that's why we have an executive session today. We do have a fair bit of work at the end of the year to get caught up on our advisory board, so that those all have fresh appointments. So that end of November, first week in December, we're going to crank those pretty hard so that every advisory board has fresh appointments going into the new year.
I'm wondering if that might warrant having an additional meeting to do for interviews.
Something like that. So, but to your point, we'll try to do that.
Depending on the content piece.
Because what's interesting is even when we do Zoom meetings, I typically will do them in my office.
Yeah.
And so there have been a number of times when we've had a Zoom executive session, but if these people want to come in person, they can, because they can just come to my office. So that's one of the things I've tried to do to make that easier, so that for those individuals, there's an in-person option. They can just come to town hall and I'm here. All right. Sounds like the sense of our board is we keep our current approach. 1 per month is Zoom, summer meetings by Zoom, and in person for hot topics. Okay. All right. Last item for new business, we will table this. This is discuss and take action on a request to film at the Darien Swap Shop. Jennifer, they did not, what happened there?
This was a last-minute request the swap shop received, and our process is that we require a film permit. We did send it to the group that wanted to film, requested that they get it back today. We haven't heard back from them. So no action to be taken. I would say we don't even have to table it because it's not expected to be brought back up.
Got it.
It's a group, not an individual?
It is a group, and this would have a nationwide
Is it like
potential
a
viewership.
Like a movie film or something?
No, it's like a thrifting show segment. But
So it's not filming people dropping stuff off and dropping stuff.
It is, I think.
It is, but it's somebody who agreed to it.
Look at all the great things you can do with stuff that you find here, kind of thing. Which is great, and it goes along with their mission. And with the film permits, for the most part, it's either a student doing something or a small thing. And administratively, that's no problem for me to sign off. But something that would have a nationwide viewership should definitely come before you guys.
Storage Wars?
No.
Whoa, sounds like it, right?
Starring General Mike Burke. Oh my God.
So Jen, this was a one and done, and you don't see it coming back?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I think they had certain time constraints, and with the required approval process, I don't think it worked for them.
Got it.
All right, next up is Great Island. So first item is to discuss Great Island early access and stabilization. As I mentioned in my comments, we're just focused on early access. And I've already talked a lot about this. Did you want to say a few words, Monica, or kick off the discussion?
Well, I think that you did a great job on the presentation. I think that Reed Hildebrand did a great job on their proposal. And this is something that we identified during the vision and master plan process as the next step. So for those that are saying you're not really doing anything out there, we are doing something. We're going slow, we're going carefully, but this will give access to our residents to actually get out on the island. A lot of people can't walk from Pear Tree, so this will give some parking. It will give some, this plan establishes some bike parking, so, and we've been working with Reed Hildebrand for, a year and a half.
Yeah.
So I think they did a really good job, so.
Just to reiterate one point from my presentation is how we look at these appropriations. So in the master plan, that plan is a visionary document, lays out kind of what we could be doing, but what it doesn't have are the detailed designs, drawings, schematics, and bid documents that you actually have to send to a contractor to get them to bid on the work. Right? That work has not been done. And so for all Great Island appropriations, what we're going to do is have this sort of two-step appropriation process. The first appropriation is to have Reed Hildebrand and a number of other service providers create all those technical documents that I just described. Once those documents are created, including the bid documents, that then goes out to the contractors and we take bids for the work that needs to be done. In this case, for early access, it's going to take 9 to 12 months to do that work and do it right. But once that work is finished, the bid documents will go out, and then we're going to have a sense for what all the bids are from contractors to do this work. Reed Hildebrand, in a careful way, did an estimate and said that phase of work that we're talking about, early access, will run between $10 and $14 million. So if you include the Reed Hildebrand appropriation of 2 and change, it's going to be about 14 to call it $16 million. I'm sorry, $12 to $16 million by the time we get to a full cost for the early access. And as Monica said, we are taking this very slowly. There are no other commitments. We're not proposing any additional spending. We're going to take a close look at building stabilization to make sure that we've invested just the right amount of money to keep those buildings in shape for the future if we decide to spend money on them later. But we're going to spend some time on that with the building committee once it's formed. But right now, just early access. Yes?
I agree that there are safety concerns. I would like to see some parking. I'd like to see some access for folks. I'm right now struggling with this additional $3 million. And part of the issue is that we have no committee, we have no commission, and I'm struggling with this amount. And the more I think about it, the more I have a hard time with it. This unbelievably needs a building committee. We have none set, and there's a part of me that felt like we skipped a few steps. So we got to this appropriation, that this should have been done as a part of the ending of the first phase of the committee. We approved a master plan, but like with the town parks master plan, you don't have to do every single thing in there. And I think that we should have had a discussion about, if we're now creating documents for every single item in that to me feels like we're jumping the gun. I feel very strongly that this should not be done unless you have a building committee that is able to move forward. I think we're doing this, we're agreeing to hire these folks and put these things into place, and there's no one managing this right now. And I'm really struggling with that.
Well, I think we can form a building committee relatively quickly, and I think that the Great Island Advisory Committee vetted this particular next phase pretty thoroughly. We talked about early access quite a bit. You'll notice that this is just the very beginning of the island. We're not touching anything further on, and there are pretty detailed plans, and Reed Hildebrand's plan is very detailed as far as tasks and deliverables, very well thought out. So I agree that we need to form a building committee. This is not, as complicated as like the HHR.
I'm not saying it's complicated, but you're agreeing to hire a particular firm without a building committee in place to manage the process or any of the projects. And that's the piece that I think is difficult. I feel like this is something that would have been done further down the line. I know with the building committee, you form a building committee, you figure out the plan, then you come for the appropriation. And so that's where I'm concerned, and I understand that this was very much talked about with the Great Island Committee, but this is what I'm struggling with.
I agree with Sarah. I think what makes this textually different than the other committees is that there are many aspects of that master plan that we or a building committee may recommend not to do or do something different. I mean, there are aspects of that plan that say preserve the mansion. May still determine that doesn't make sense to spend X amount of money to preserve it because those weren't hard numbers. I look at this proposal as creating the mechanism to put us in a spot to actually make judgments on things that are still a little bit nebulous, because Reed Hildebrand was really hired and they created estimates and they created different options based on the things that they heard in our community. But I think we will need a building committee and we will have to make judgments, because outside of widening that road and getting parking spaces up there as quickly as possible, there is really nothing else that has been firmly decided. But this will give us a mechanism to start to do that, and that's why I would be in favor of this appropriation, but understanding that a building committee is going to have to be formed rapidly.
I think it's worth going back and looking at the purpose of a building committee. One of the things I had in my slides about that was that the building committee decides how to get things built that have been decided, right? What they're not doing is they're not deciding what to build, right? So if you go back and look at the Public Works Garage Building Committee that I served on, or Oxbridge, or HHR, there were some decisions in there tweaking around the edges as they discovered things, or they're trying to work things out where you had to make some spot decisions. But in terms of there being a significant change in direction, or we're radically redoing this plan, or we're making big decisions, that no, building committees do not do that, right? So in this particular case, we have a general vision of what we want to accomplish. The Board of Selectmen is going to come in and say, we want to build this, just like the school board would come in and say, we want to build the Oxbridge School, and here are the education specs. Then this group comes out and says, all right, now we're actually going to be charged with executing that against what the Board of Education wants. So in this case, the Reed Hildebrand work is a little bit different because they've gotten so precise about exactly what we're talking about, and it's such a contained area that we can form the building committee. But in terms of the building committee coming in and sort of radically rethinking this in a way that's inconsistent with what the master plan says, they're not going to do that. They're also not going to come in and say, all right, now we're going to start to consider what to do about the main house or the stables, or no. That's really the responsibility of this board to come in and say, this is what we want to build. If we decide that we need help in making that decision, I think we could form another committee to do that. But part of the reason we formed the Great Island Committee was that we really wanted a massive effort to get public input in terms of what do you want to do with Great Island. And hiring those particular consultants enabled us to choreograph what was a significant public effort to get that feedback to build this plan.
Okay, so I guess okay, I feel like what was not clear to me was that there would not be another iteration of the Great Island Advisory Committee. I thought we would have a phase 2. I didn't realize that the Board of Selectmen would now be fully responsible for every decision that would be made for Great Island.
Well, if I can interrupt you, so we could, as a board, form another committee. I'm not foreclosing that. I'm just saying that the purpose of that committee was to get us to that master plan. So now it's back in our court, and we as a board need to decide what's next. In my judgment, I think we have enough here, particularly for this discrete early access phase, that we can charter an effort to begin that planning, put a building committee on top of that, and have them work together to build this discrete part of the plan. Later on, as a board, years from now, maybe with none of us on the board, they will pick up the ball and say, all right, let's go back to that original master plan and kind of see what's next. They may decide at that point, years from now, that we need another committee to completely rethink this based on the experience that we've had on Great Island. I don't know. It's hard to say. And I kind of don't want to tackle all that because we're not going to spend any of that money anyway anytime soon. We're just spending money on this one small thing. And so getting that started and getting a committee attached to it and says, go do that, and forget about all this other stuff, seems like the right way to approach that, at least in my view. Monica?
I couldn't say it better. Yeah.
Marcy?
Yeah, well said. I agree. I think at this point it should be the responsibility of the Board of Selectmen to start to make some of these oversight decisions. Getting people onto the island, I think, is a priority for this board. I don't think it's complex. Obviously, it's going to take funding, it's going to take patience, it's going to take a lot of conversations from the public, but it is a priority to get there, to start, looking into the parking, start looking into the electricity, the facilities, the bathrooms. Those are priority. Once that's done, I think it's super important that as a board we start to discuss the governance of the entire island as a whole. How are we going to go forward? Who's going to manage this property? Who's going to make these decisions? It may not be us, like you just said. It may not be the Board of Selectmen. At that point, we might be ready to punt it to an official commission. But right now, I think getting that access is something that the Board of Selectmen should be responsible for making the decisions.
And I addressed governance in that presentation that I gave in some detail. To your point, Sarah, if we form a building committee on this particular project, I know exactly what I would tell them to do if it were me in terms of charter mission. Here's what you need to do. If we were to form Great Island Advisory Committee 2 to start work, I have no idea what I would tell them.
I can totally appreciate that, John.
I just don't know what I would do.
We're approving $3 million, which is more than Weed Beach. We have no building committee, and who's running this?
Well, like I said, the Board of Selectmen and Monica's continued oversight of all this, given her long role, will be the interface right now for Retail to get started. This is not going to start immediately. They're going to start on some design documents that are all tie into the master plan, but we will get a building committee in place as soon as possible. We need to get the right people for that committee to work on this phase, and we will do that. We will do that as soon as possible. I don't know that not having the committee for a few weeks while this paperwork.
It's not about not having the building committee. I just want to understand, this is $1 million for Retail to $2 million for work on the island. Is that correct? About approximately?
It's $2.3 million
right.
in the first appropriation that does design work and planning,
right.
No construction.
But $1 million is for Retail to
$1,771,000 is
okay.
for Retail to
And so to manage this, it is you? Is that? I just want to fully understand what we're doing here, because
so if we have a building committee, Monica's going to chair that building committee.
Not saying that she shouldn't, but I just want to understand this was not yeah.
Right, so
I guess I kind of get Sarah's point. So who is going to be giving input to Reed Hildebrand on our wants and needs at this point? Is it you and Monica? Is it going to be us as a board that's getting together and saying, well, this is what we see?
Yes.
Is it feedback from the public? Are we going to have public hearing? I get that completely.
Yeah. Keep in mind that all of these advisory committees, building committees, all of these are extensions of power of the Board of Selectmen, right? We appoint them, we charter them and say, you guys go out and do that. And the reason we do that is because we don't have enough capacity to go in and run all these
No, but the
meetings and do
decisions
that.
are made at the building committee level. They're not made at this board level. The decisions are recommendations that are brought forth to this level. They're not decisions that are made on a one-off phone call.
Well, but they're not decisions about what to build. They're decisions around the edges of how to build it as things come up during that process. I totally get that. The way this is going to start is with, for the next 3 or 4 months, is nothing but design drawings, right? That these are people sitting at drafting tables and with CAD computers figuring out design documents. So there's no procurement, there's no bidding, there are no construction documents. None of that actually gets started until the new year. So we will definitely have that building committee. It's just that even now, if I were to have that building committee meet with you in charge, I'm not sure what you would do for a couple of months.
But then what are we appropriating? Why are we appropriating $3 million if there's nothing that we're doing right now?
It's $2.3 million. It's not $3 million.
Right, but the appropriation is $2.9 million.
The appropriation is $2.3 million. That's a mistake. That we're updating that number in the bond resolution. It's 2.3.
That's a big difference. And
well, I understand that, but we cut out building stabilization and all of that. We reduced the scope of all that.
okay, that was not given to me. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm really not. And I normally make very clear how I feel. That's a big difference of $600,000.
I want to be clear. Look, if this board, if you guys don't want to do something, we'll shut it down. We don't have to do this. My judgment, I've spent a lot of time on all this. I know Monica has. you guys are not doing this job full-time like I am, or like she has been, and so I get that, and I treat that seriously. If you're not comfortable moving forward with this because you feel there's inadequate oversight, I disagree with that, but I respect that, and I want this board to be unanimous. If you don't want to do this, that's
Yeah, Sarah, you know what?
That's okay, really.
This early access was a big part of the vision and the master plan.
I'm sure it was,
The
yeah,
master plan,
absolutely.
it was discussed, and so Mike and John and I have seen these diagrams, and so I can see where you would be a little, because you're kind of seeing it.
100%. I've been in the HHR world, so I have not been looking at this.
Right.
And
And I think if you look at the proposal, you'll see that there are very few kind of outside decisions to be made. It's a pretty clear cut, and that's why I think the building committee will be relatively straightforward, informing, and this idea was vetted pretty thoroughly by the Great Island Advisory Committee, so you can kind of think of them as a little bit.
I can
of a
totally
pseudo.
appreciate that, but it's the dollar amount that we're putting forth right now with no formal oversight. I don't, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think I received anything that notified me that this was $600,000 off from the appropriation that we'd be approving tonight.
Yeah, so I sent out, I recorded this presentation yesterday. What went out to the Board of Selectmen today had a link to that presentation, the actual retail to brand proposal for their work in detail. What was not clear, what I should have done, was that the dollar amount and the appropriation was something we put in when we had to send out and post this agenda. And in that we had said, well, we're probably going to do building stabilization work as well as the early access work, and we decided to take that out just because it was, well, it's expensive, and we felt that that actually did need to be vetted by a building committee. And so that's the piece where I do think having a building committee actually walk those buildings, look at the stabilization that's proposed, and make absolutely sure that that's just the minimum that we need to do. I'm totally all over that. That's why I want to wait and get them to do that. So if we form the building committee, in my mind, that's actually job one. This stuff here has been discussed so extensively that I'm not sure what I would ask a building committee to do, because it's parking, it's bathrooms, and it's roadways and infrastructure. There's nothing fancy or cool about any of that stuff.
It's not about fancy or cool, Joan. It's just about who is actually making the decisions and approving and spending.
Okay. When we get to that point, which is a year from now, 9 months from now, when we actually have drawings and we have contractors to build this out, there's not going to be anything built. All of this is just going to be sitting in an office for at least a year.
Yeah, the document the proposal that is in our packet, that's what we will be working on for the next year. We will start looking at the stabilization and prioritizing and phasing that. But right now, what you're looking at in front of you now, this is going to keep us busy.
I don't have that.
You don't have?
Yes, you do.
It was in the...
It's not in my packet, and I can see that it's probably on this email from
It's in
this Great
the
Island
email
Master
from John.
Plan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mike?
If anything, I mean, I'm disappointed that it'll be perhaps as much as a year before we start putting up parking spaces there. Because I think, access really is the key. I think you make an important point about the stabilization and that being an action item for a building committee. And I don't think necessarily we sequenced all of this well, but it's a new endeavor for us as a board, and so we're going outside the lines a little bit here in the beginning, but I trust our ultimate judgment to make the proper decisions, and I think delay is maybe in some ways prudent. I sat on that committee for a year and a half. I want these things to move. So I'm willing to vote for this appropriation, but I'm very mindful of Sarah's comments.
How about this? So, given her involvement, my view, and Monica's willing to do this, is that she would chair the building committee. Two individuals from the Great Island Committee, Jeff Table and Dan Kolakowski, who are 40-year executives in planning, and you know them well, having their, we'd like to put them on the building committee. And we'll have 2 to 4 additional people to put on the building committee. If you'd like, what we could do at this meeting is actually form the building committee with Monica, Jeff, and Dan, who've all agreed to serve on this, and then immediately launch an effort to try to identify 2 to 4 more members to put on the building committee. So that way we actually have a formal committee in place, incomplete, but in place, with, by the way, towering expertise, right? Having been involved from day one with this, with professional construction expertise in those 2 individuals to get the committee started, and then we'll add 2 to 4 more people, hopefully by the end of this month. Would that be a way to kind of formally assign that responsibility?
That's a major part of my issue, yes.
Right.
That there is no piece of governance to this.
Okay. Are you okay with that, Monica?
Mm-hmm.
Could I get a motion to form, albeit incompletely, an early access phase building committee for Great Island, chaired by Monica McNally, with membership including Jeff Table and Dan Kolakowski? Actually, do we have to actually add this as new business?
Yeah.
Okay. Could I get a motion to add as new business the formation of a building committee? Mike moves. Sarah seconds. All in favor? Okay. Could I get a motion to approve the formation of a building committee chaired by Monica McNally and including Jeff Table and Dan Kolakowski, with other members to be named at a later date, but as soon as possible? Mike moves. Sarah seconds. All in favor? Okay. Unanimous. So now we have a building committee.
So at the next meeting, we'll have a formal charge and the typical list of this is what we will be having the building committee do.
Yep. Okay. All right.
Can I just say
Please.
something to Mike? So Mike, it seems like it's 1 year worth of like kind of design and paperwork, and there's a lot of time put into this allocated for the permitting process. And Reed did get input from DPW, and they got input from Craig. And there are there's summer time included in this. So this right now is a 29 to 32 month project, but a good chunk of that it might be a little bit more flexible is the permitting process. So of course we want to get the parking spaces out there.
Of course.
All right.
Any questions?
So I know this is a tough thing. I would just reiterate, like I said in my presentation, this is the absolute bare minimum that we can think of that really needs to be done to provide access, which is why it's called early access. We really want to provide access. I think we've got good oversight by the Board of Selectmen over this, but now with a building committee, we will flesh out the mission of that committee to make sure that the interests of the Board of Selectmen are adequately represented, and we will go from there. Any further discussion about this? Okay. Could I get, could I get a motion to approve a resolution appropriating $2,300,000 for planning and design of the Great Island Early Access Project, strike stabilization, and authorizing the issuance of bonds and notes in the amount of $2,300,000 to meet said appropriation, and recommend same to the Board of Finance? Monica moves. Marcy seconds. All in favor? Unanimous. Okay, thank you. For what it's worth, I do appreciate the robust discussion of this. We will get to better decisions when you raise questions like that, and I want you to know I appreciate it.
Process, John.
It's
all
process.
about the process.
All about process. I really do appreciate that. Okay. Transfers. We have several of them. First one, discuss and take action on a request to transfer $9,350 from the Board of Finance Capital Reserve for a replacement freezer for the Mather Senior Center. Jennifer.
Allie Ramsteck is here.
Oh, poor Ally.
This is new for me.
I was like, why is she here?
And it's really not that much money compared to something. Well,
Don't worry,
yes.
we won't.
Thank you. We need a new freezer in the Mather Center.
Ally, this
probably-
is outrageous. How can you come
I was
here?
like, oh, pressure.
I think you're good.
So, quickly, we think it's probably about 20 years old. It was from the previous center on Eggerson Street. We don't know exactly how old it is, but it's on its last leg. And Chef Judy is nervous that she comes in every morning that we might lose thousands of dollars worth of food if it doesn't get fixed quickly. So we need to replace it, please. Motion to approve.
Could I get a
Wait, I have one question.
Uh-huh. Uh-oh.
When they bring the new freezer, will they take the old freezer
Yes.
away?
Oh my gosh. So, yes, because it's actually another $125 additional, I found out today, to the request. So it's a total of $94.75.
That's
And that
correct.
includes...
We need to
revise.
Yes, we need to revise $125 more dollars.
For more and more.
I'm just getting greedy.
Well,
Have hit our limit with what we're doing.
I wish I went first.
If you want to get into the big leagues of spending money, you're going to have to go a little further than
Motion to
that.
approve amended.
Could I get a motion to approve the amended transfer of $9,475 to cover the cost of the freezer in the Mather Center?
So moved.
Sarah moves, big spender. Monica seconds, all in favor. Thank you.
Thanks, Ally.
Thanks, Ally.
Next item.
Now you may go.
Next item, discuss and take action on a fiscal 2025 request to transfer $35,885 to facility repair and maintenance, equipment repair and maintenance accounts within the Darien Fire Department. Jennifer.
Yep. All the rest of the transfers are closeouts for fiscal '25. DFD had unanticipated equipment and building repair expenses. About $22,000 of this was for needed repairs on engine 41 and 42, which are both 19 years old. And then they had some elevator testing, AC system repairs, electrical repair work, plumbing and building access repair work. So they were not able to cover all of that within their existing budget and are asking for a transfer from contingency.
Well, as our number one mechanic, I'm going to trust his recommendation.
Yep, I would say absolutely. So could I get a motion to approve the transfer of $35,885 to facility repair and maintenance repair for the Darien Fire Department? Mike moves, Marcy seconds, all in favor? Okay. Next, discuss and take action on a fiscal 2025 request to transfer $290,864 to several employee benefits accounts.
This transfer is cleaning up deficits in our accrued leave redemption. We typically do have a deficit here because we budget about $175,000, $200,000, and then when people retire or we have the police sick payouts, we don't always know what those are going to be. So we typically do have an overage here that was $52,000. Defined contribution, the employer contribution, that's a deficit that we're cleaning up of just over $10,700. With the settlement of the town hall union contract, we bumped up the employer contribution from 5% to 7%, and that was back in the fall, so we had almost a year worth of additional contributions. And this is one where we're kind of chasing our tail anyway, because all of the people who participate, they're new hires after such and such a date. So if someone leaves unexpectedly and now we're filling it with a new hire, that the incumbent may have been in the pension, the new hire's in the defined contribution, and we can't always necessarily predict who's going to be leaving. And then Social Security, a transfer of $17,000 to cover a deficit in there. This is one where historically we have had surpluses and we have been trying to fine tune our budgeting method on it, and we turned it down a little bit too much. So we're probably going to have a similar issue in 26 because we use the same methodology, but then we'll adjust it for 27. All of this can be covered through the surplus in the medical insurance, which was about $290,000. Bulk of that is vacancies, as well as people choosing different tiers of coverage than either their incumbent or what we assumed for new hires. So this also then moves the remaining $210 that's not needed to cover the deficits over to Board of Finance contingency in case it is needed elsewhere.
Any questions for Jennifer?
Hey, Jen, when we bring new people on, do you just assume if they're married that both will be on the medical plan?
So in the budget, we look at all of the vacancies. We take a look at what positions may be vacant, new positions. We assume that people are going to take our 2,000, 4,000 high deductible and not the 25.5, and we assume that they're going to take it on as employee plus one.
Okay.
We've actually had a lot of people who, even if they may be married, we've had more single uptake, and we've had more people taking the 25.5 deductible
Right.
plan.
Right. But you have a method, so, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, motion to approve a transfer of $290,864 to employee benefits accounts. Sarah moves, Monica seconds, all in favor? Okay. Discuss and take action on a fiscal 2025 request to transfer $137,103 to the police department overtime accounts from police full-time salary accounts.
Again, this is due to vacancies. They had vacancies for dispatchers as well as for patrol, so we are looking to move surpluses that occurred in those full-time accounts over to their overtime accounts.
Any questions? Motion to approve the transfer of $137,103 to police department overtime accounts. Sarah moves, Mike seconds, all in favor? Okay. Discuss and take action on a fiscal 25 request to transfer $7,247 to facility repair and maintenance account within the Roten Heights Fire Department.
This one, the fire department had some smaller surpluses in other accounts, and they are requesting to move it to facility maintenance and repair, where they had an unexpected fire alarm repair and some additional expenses related to a snow removal contract.
Snow removal, $7,507.
Yeah.
I do have a quick
It
question.
didn't snow.
Why are we not transferring the entire balance of each of the accounts?
Leaving 97 cents in there?
268 for professional services, 16 cents, 97 cents, 27 cents.
So we only transfer whole dollar amounts.
Oh.
But 268?
Because they covered it with all the other ones, and all they needed was.
Okay, but if you're closing out the account, shouldn't that all, should
We
we
can't
put that in the
transfer
Board
pennies.
of? Oh, okay. No, I just mean like the 268, should we put that in Board of Finance contingency, or is that?
No,
like-
typically we've only done movement to Board of Finance contingency out of 2 accounts this year that had significant surpluses. Typically, we leave surpluses in the departments.
And this will be just for the fiscal year 26 or whatever.
No, it doesn't roll over, it just ends up as a surplus. When we close the year, it
Eventually-
becomes fund balance.
Okay.
But it shows as a surplus.
And when do you do
within
that? Just that, I don't remember, I apologize.
They just closed the year over the weekend.
Right.
And
Oh.
it's effective 6/30.
Okay, got it, okay, thanks.
I just, one question, not to be trite, but $5,600 unanticipated expense for the fire alarm in the firehouse. Is there a little bit of what exactly happened there? Did someone drop a?
Physician, heal thyself.
And if you don't know, that's fine, I just couldn't
I think
pass
that
it out.
I don't have any additional, Josh put these together
That's fine.
in working with the
Get
departments.
back to
but
you on that.
The departments aren't systems people. They can't get into the wiring and.
They're
and the-
volunteers.
Yeah, they go out and they fight the fires. They want to make sure one doesn't occur while they're out
But
fighting.
the irony is noted.
Well, and
When I see an unanticipated expense, I'm like, did someone drive into it? Did someone just,
We
it's
should
not
laugh.
normal wear and tear, I don't know.
that's fantastic, thank you. Well, and similar, large snow removal bill. I mean, the amount of snow we had last year, $7,570, could probably cover the entire town. I mean,
And it's tough because they are smaller properties, so they will contract with somebody, and a lot of those contracts are regardless of how much it snows, or, for
Yeah.
each time they have to come out and clear an inch, there's a charge. It's
okay.
not like when we do it ourselves.
Can I get a motion to approve the transfer of $7,247 to facility repair and maintenance for the Roten Fire Department? Sarah moves, Mike seconds, all in favor? Okay. Next, discuss and take action on fiscal 25 request to transfer $4,237 to building control salaries.
This is a request to come from contingency because the department could not cover it internally. This is also related to the settlement of the town hall union contract, which had some revisions to when overtime is paid, and added a new provision for standby within the building department and the fire marshal's office. Fire marshal was able to cover internally, building cannot.
Motion to approve transfer of $4,237 to control salaries. Sarah moves. Mike seconds. All in favor? Okay. Discuss and take action on a fiscal 25 request to transfer $25,000 to youth services seasonal salaries.
Because the youth director position was vacant and we needed to run summer camp, we hired a summer camp coordinator as a seasonal and temporary position. And this is looking to transfer some of the unused youth salary dollars to the seasonal line to cover that coordinator.
Motion to approve the $25,000 transfer from a full-time salary to seasonal. Sarah moves. Marcy seconds. All in favor? Okay. All right. We have some appointments. So all of these individuals for the Architectural Review Board, I had a chance to discuss with Liz Geiger, who chairs the board, as well as the committees for these individuals, Republicans or Democrats. I actually don't have that noted here. But they are all approved, and these individuals want to serve. We asked if they wanted to be interviewed or anything to say, and they said no. So, absent any discussion here, may I have a motion to approve the reappointment of the following members to the Architectural Review Board for terms expiring June 30th, 2029. Alexandra Lopatinsky, Anna Janis, David Sands Humphrey, and Rebecca Morrison. Mike moves. Monica seconds. All in favor? Excellent. Thank you to individuals who serve on this board and all of our boards. We really do appreciate it. So thank you for re-upping. Next up is to review and approve the minutes of the August 18th, 2025 regular meeting. I have reviewed those and they looked okay. Anyone have any edits?
No.
Motion to approve the minutes of August 18th as presented. Sarah moves. Marcy seconds. All in favor? Okay. In agenda review, we've got discussed yard signs and policy enforcement. Jennifer, did you have a chance to talk to Ed or Jeremy about that today?
I did speak with Jeremy, and he shared the lawn sign policy that they have. What he has told me that is in the last year, P&Z has made significant progress on the lawn sign issue. So there is a regulation regarding size and placement, and then there is a P&Z policy. They are allowed for Darien nonprofits, and this is where P&Z has been working closely with nonprofits and has developed a good rapport with them and a good education process. They're allowed to go up 1 week before the event. It's supposed to come down the day after. If they're still up, the P&Z department will reach out to the organization and ask them to remove the sign. So they feel like they've gotten a really good handle on the nonprofits. There's still questions about what if it's a month-long registration, something like that. P&Z doesn't want the signs up for a week, so they say pick a week within that registration period and you can have the signs up for the week. Signs are also allowed for contractors at active work sites as long as they have a permit and work is underway. If they're no longer working or it's not in the proper location, P&Z will reach out to the property owner and ask them to either move the sign to the proper location or remove it if the work's been complete. What is not allowed, and they do come across this from time to time, is private organizations or nonprofits that are not from Darien. If these signs are seen, P&Z will try to contact the company. If it's just a website or something like that, P&Z will actually remove them. They try to take the education track and inform these companies that they're just not allowed in town. But if they can't get in touch with anybody, they'll just pull them out. And then finally, on political signs, P&Z does not get involved with removal of political signs. They're allowed, I forget if it was 30 to 60 days prior to the election, and P&Z asks that the candidates remove them. If they're still up, they reach out to either the town committees and ask them to go around town. P&Z doesn't have an active planned enforcement. They're not driving around regularly looking for these, but if they do see them while they're out and about doing other work, they will follow their policy and either contact the company, contact the property owner, or if appropriate, remove the signs.
So I think part of this came from the fact that one organization had reached out because their signs went up about a month before the event, as many organizations had put signs up about a month before. And so this organization had their signs taken by DPW because they were doing some work on the site, and other organizations' signs were left up. So I think part of the issue is the inconsistent nature of who gets signs left up or not. And part of it is, if they're on a place where we need to actively maintain landscaping or whatever, that's difficult too. So I think it's a confluence of issues here. And I think, I think DPW is just trying to do their job. I don't think they're out there. They don't want to take signs down.
And the policy does address that. It does say that any signs along the roadways within 10 to 12 feet of paved area are on town-owned property, subject to removal by DPW.
Right.
And then if they're on DOT property, that's another
Hey, yeah.
subject too.
Yeah.
So, you know, if DPW needs to get in there and work, they are gonna have to.
That's the hard thing. I think they felt like their signs were up for 2 days, they got taken down, they lost them, and then their organization had signs up for, you know, a month and a half, and they're like, hey. So I can appreciate, yeah, I think it's just hard.
Yeah, I think it's not perfect. One thing that Jeremy did suggest is when, you know, there's a road race or whatever that this board approves, when we reach back out to the requester and say it's been approved, he did say that it wouldn't be bad for us to include a little blurb that, you know, the Board of Selectmen has approved the event and the town policy on any signs you may want to put up is, and share that with them.
Got it.
It's not going to reach everybody, but I think they've made good strides in working with the Darien nonprofits, especially over the last year. They probably hit most of them who have some kind of a cyclical event. So hopefully it'll continue to improve.
Sounds good, and I think you can take this off of our agenda review.
Okay, all right. No, it's good. that
Had it on
we
there for
addressed
the
it.
past several
No,
months, and I
we-
appreciate you
we-
doing it.
Hey, Jen, one quick question. What about Darien Town? So for instance, when Krista does the dog license, how long can that sign be up? I think June is license your dog.
I will ask Jeremy. I don't know if we make an exception for us or if we treat us as, you know, pick a week of your month-long event and publicize it.
Yeah, good question. And I owe everybody the update on Roten Avenue and Ledge Road. I had a call about that today. I'm not ready to talk about it, but I'm working on that. So more to come on that turn lane. Is there anything anyone would like to add for agenda review?
I'll be curious to hear about when we'll be doing Heights Road repaving, as well as
Next spring. I
putting
checked
lights on electric eyes.
So the lights are done. They need to be calibrated. The paving, Ed does not want to do that because, until next spring, partly because the Vacaros just bought those additional buildings that are right there on Heights Road, and they're going to tear up pavement to do all that construction.
It's good to know that they did, because that was another question, so
Yeah,
thank you.
so they bought that. I think the plans have gone or are about to go to planning and zoning. In any case, they don't want to pave that and
No,
then have the roads torn up.
that makes more sense.
But that's why Ed's got it on the docket for May.
But the hollow tree lights, I think that, to me, having been a part of that lovely mess that is the 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock between the schools and the trains, those three lights are so out of whack.
Has
as opposed
that
to
been
traffic.
in the last week that you've seen that?
Yeah, I saw one light that was the one that was the, right in the, I'm not gonna, Hollow Tree, right as you're on the bridge, you're going north on Hollow Tree, Heights Road is on your right, that light there, it was on, it went green for,
Well, there's
when I
three
tell
lights.
you
There's the one-
3 milliseconds, it went green and then turned off, everyone was like, what is going on? So
Okay.
I have no idea.
I'm going to specifically recheck that because I had thought that.
I'm just very concerned
work
once
had been-
Goddard School opens,
Okay.
or if it's open, just that whole, yeah, and plus, we have kids now on scooters and on bikes, and,
Yeah, I'm going to recheck
which is
all
a
that.
whole other agenda review item at some point.
That's a problem, yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, I may have Ed just to come in and provide an update on lights, paving.
Sounds great.
Let's do that for next
Thank
time.
you. Maybe we should do it on a night where Ed doesn't have to stay till 10 o'clock. So maybe a night where we don't have as many things as we did tonight.
Well, it can be a Zoom meeting, like the next visit.
Sounds great. Put it on for first for Ed.
The other, talking about what Sarah just brought up, which is certainly top of my mind, is the scooters in town.
Yeah.
In particularly, I think legislation is going to be passing some laws come October on what types of bikes could be used, what engines can be used. I think it would be really beneficial for the captain, Maris, to come, or chief should come, and give a presentation about the new laws that are going to be imposed on scooters, because I know that there's a lot of parents who pay no mind.
I'm still seeing kids
And
on
kids,
flip-flops
they
and
don't mind.
Crocs with no
So-
helmets, and some of these bikes have been modified, they're so fast, it's,
But there's a lack of understanding on what is legal to be riding on the street, what is appropriate, what is safety regulations. So I think
Yeah,
it's fair for
they-
him to come and just give a presentation of what the law is.
Absolutely, I've got that down here. They have initiated and launched a meticulously designed campaign to try
Yeah.
to educate people on that.
Yep.
Part of the problem is that these bikes are easily modified.
Yeah.
and you can disable the governor. There's some way to do that. The kids have figured out how to do all that. The other problem is that a lot of these kids riding these bikes, I assure you, they do not have the financial resources to buy those bikes.
Oh, no, mom and dad bought them.
So parents are buying these bikes for them, and I get that it creates some freedom, but you've got this perfect storm of the desire to have independence for a kid, which is great. And I've talked to a number of people that said it's just miraculous that my kid can go now do this stuff and have transportation. You've got a technology that can easily be modified to where it's doing what it's not supposed to be doing, and just a lot of money sloshing around in the system.
They're 10 years old, and
Yeah.
they don't understand the rules of the road, and I'm very concerned. We had an incident that was announced on Facebook this week. I don't know what happened, that a child was hit on a bike and the driver run away. I know they contacted police, but I'm very concerned as the light is less and less and less every day, I'm so afraid that something terrible is going to happen. So.
I believe in parent choice, that parents can choose. But if it's illegal for a child to be on a road with a particular bike, and it's illegal for a child to be on a road with a particular bike, and we need to let the town know that there are.
Yeah, and one of the things I would like the chief to come in and talk about, well, I don't know if this is appropriate, but just sort of what their degrees of freedom are on enforcement, right? So on the one hand, it's one thing to have drivers driving too fast, okay, we'll ticket them. It's another thing to have the police chasing after 10, 11, 12-year-olds on bikes and ticketing them. This is one of those things where even if we had absolutely crystal clear laws, which by the way we do, we have very clear laws about what bikes are permitted, to come out and have an enforcement protocol where I'm going to take police away from other operations and have them chase down teenagers. That's also not going to work in terms of, it's a very, very difficult problem.
100%.
And that's why I think having just a presentation on the evolution of state law, because if we have something that is a state mandate that we can hang our hat on, I think that's going to be something that we can manage more easily. So let's start with that.
Sounds good.
And we'll have him come in and do that. Okay.
And invite all the kids to come.
Anyway, okay. Anything else for the good of the order? Okay, I think that is our agenda for this evening. May I have our next meeting is Monday, September 29th, and that will be by Zoom. Okay, could I get a motion to adjourn? Sarah moves, Mike seconds. All in favor, we stand adjourned. Thank you.